So the process, first of all, why do we do a Farmer of the Year every year? We started doing this in 2003, recognizing one farmers, a farm, and we've been doing it every year since. And why do we do it? Because it's consistent with our Moses mission, which is to educate, inspire, and empower farmers to thrive in a sustainable, organic system of agriculture. The process for finding the Farmer of the Year starts with you all. You are the people that nominate these incredible farmers. You're invited to nominate farmers, and that will happen. You'll probably see something in the Moses newsletter in the next couple of months. And then in July, August, and September, those applications are submitted, and they're basically, you send in an email and you answer a couple of questions about the farmers that you're nominating. The cutoff date, I think, is September 15th for doing that. Then Harriet Bihar and staff interview the people that have been nominated that meet the minimum criteria of being certified organic farmers. And she writes up the responses to those interview questions for the board. And then at the board's November in-person meeting, we have the good time of sorting through those nominations, debating, discussing, advocating for the Farmer of the Year. The Farmer of the Year is decided based on the number of acres, the types of crops, what kind of innovations they've made, how they've protected the resources, soil, water, biodiversity on their farm, and how have they contributed to the education and communication about organic. If you've already read your program manual for this conference, excuse me, you'll see on page 58 that there's a wonderful photo of our Farmers of the Year. And the Farmers of the Year are Steve Pincus and Beth Kasmar. And so if you would come up here, please. Just stay here for a minute.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
So before they get to start talking about their beautiful farm, I want to tell you a couple things about them. The first time I ever found out that carrots can be super wonderfully sweet, I got them at the farmer's market in Madison, and I traced them back to TP Produce, and that was Steve Pincus. And I have been addicted to carrots ever since. And I'm going to give Steve and Beth 3 gifts. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. First of all, they didn't grow up on a farm.
Neither of us.
No.
No.
They're not from the Midwest initially.
No.
Neither of you. They have farmed 3 different properties. So they've gone through the process, at least, they've gone through the process of figuring out, well, what do they want? What's available? How do we deal with this? And 2 of those farms were rented properties. Now they have their 3rd farm, and it's your own farm.
Yes.
They pay taxes on this one big time. And so for the past dozen years, something that's important to the Moses Board, they have not had off-farm income in their household. Beth retired or resigned or finished up working from that off-farm job, and now she's also on the farm full-time. So that's a little bit about what you'll get to hear from Steve and Beth. Now, I said I get to give them 3 gifts, and those are, first of all, a beautiful plaque.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
And then we give them something equally valuable. It's a check for $500.
Okay.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Your college fund.
And then of slightly less value, but longer term value, it's a gift certificate, $100 at our bookstore.
Take that.
Thank you.
It's yours.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It's really an honor and also a responsibility that we take to be up here receiving this award tonight. I want to thank all our friends, all our comrade farmers, and all the foodies and first-timers and long-term conference attendees here in the audience. And I know you're going to get a lot out of this whole conference. I want to at first introduce our children. Step up. Sophie in 11th grade and Ari, and we could not have done it without them, I think. So they're definitely a part of our farm. Okay, go ahead. But we can do the next part without them. All right.
Let me also say my thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I also just wanted to say thank you to the board for bestowing this award on us. This is the largest honor in our community, and we really appreciate it, and it is a huge rush. Thank you.
Okay, where's that clicker? Where's the slide thing?
How do we control our slides? We don't have a clicker.
Okay. Oh, here it comes. See how this works out.
Do you want to take the mic out too? I think it's going to work better.
Okay, yeah, pull it out. Yeah, just pull it.
There. Okay.
Okay.
You take this. I'll take
All right,
that.
you work that one.
Okay.
Okay. We are. There it is. Okay. We're going to give a short talk about our farm, a little bit of history, where we are now, how we got here, and why we're here. A lot of people ask, where did you get that name, Teepee Produce, and why do you spell it so weirdly? Well, when we started farming, and actually that was me, and I have to give credit to Starlight Twos, my then wife and partner, when we really got going. That was in the Driftless area near Eastman in Crawford County, about 50 miles south of here. We were living in a teepee. Not that one, but very similar. And we knew we weren't going to stay where we were, and we would just love that teepee, so we named the farm after it, and that's stuck. The teepee has followed us around, and we have one that was set up at the farm again this past summer. I started out, my first contact with farmers actually was when I helped start the Outpost Natural Food Co-ops in Milwaukee. That was back in 1970. I became a manager and then started to hunt up local and organic produce as it was back then. Met farmers, their families, fell in love with the beauty of their places and said, I want to be a farmer. And coming from my background in the city, I didn't really know what that meant. But I just jumped in when I had a chance. I was in my early 20s and kind of footloose at that point, so I could do what I wanted. And we moved to Crawford County with some friends, quickly got going, trying to farm, got involved in our first couple years of producing vegetables with the Dane County Farmers Market in Madison, one of the top producer-only farmers markets in the country, which was still young at that time, and spent 28 years selling there, actually on 2 or 3 different farms. But that market was important to our development. We built a house, Starlight and I, up on a farm that we bought with 2 other families right outside of Gays Mills, but it was a ridgetop farm. It wasn't well suited for vegetable growing, actually. It was the greatest community to live in. It was just a wonderful time. Raised the daughter there, and did kind of reach a dead end. Oh, there we go. All right, here I am at that time, actually, just starting out. There's my mother, who was considerably younger then than I am now, and so was I. But that was early, that was 1980 or so. 1979, so life was a little different for all of us. And You know, we were definitely back to the land hippies at that point. So when I say we started farming, it was a fairly loose definition at, at that point. But we were supporting ourselves. We jumped in. We said, we're going to make a living farming. It was very small at first, but we got better and better. I did hit a dead end in Gaves Mills on that ridge top in the late 80s. I just felt the land wasn't good. I was 100 miles away from my main markets in Madison. So, and I just realized I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just had bits and pieces. So I moved into Madison to go to school, to go to UW. I got a horticulture degree. Wasn't really sure if I was going to keep farming, but I was fortunate enough to find some excellent quality land to rent on the very edge of Madison, a short commute into the city. And that kind of renewed my interest, that plus the education that I got at college. And I spent a couple years there getting an undergraduate degree. Was started to farm more and more of that rented farm, and lo and behold, I met Beth in school. And things just took off from there.
So let's show a couple more pictures.
All right, here's some more. Here's some farmers market pictures from that time or a little bit later. Here I am with my daughter Autumn, who's now in her later 30s. Okay, and this is
Talk about Harvest Haven.
right. This is a picture from the farm that was then called Harvest Haven. We were still TP Produce, but it was a piece of land right on the edge of Madison, just about a 15-minute drive from the Capitol Square. It had been set up as a U-pick farm, not organic, but when I took over, we gradually transitioned it into an organic farm and kept putting resources in, and really were able to build up a pretty substantial business there. You know, at that time, organics, this was through the late 80s and the 90s, and we actually stayed there until 2002.
2002.
Okay.
I joined the farm in 1999, and I apparently retired from my research job at UW-Madison, and joined the farm when our first child, Sophie, was born. And I have a master's degree in plant pathology, and that's a very useful skill on a farm. However, the first and most important job that I had when joining the farm was to find us a new farm. So that, here's another photograph of Harvest Haven, our second rented farm. And you can see off in the distance, those are houses in Fitchburg. This was a small rented farm, a small parcel of land, about 25 tillable acres, and it was slowly getting encircled by development, and the land was extremely valuable. It was something we could never afford to buy. So my first job was to find us a new farm. And by then, having worked on a number of farms, we had a pretty good idea what we wanted. Flat land, lighter soils. We knew we wanted to stay fairly close to Madison so we could get our employees to continue commuting out to us. We were lucky to find a farm near Evansville, Wisconsin. We bought a farm from an Amish family, and we had to put two parcels together. So we bought some neighboring land, and then the family farm from the Amish family. It came with a livable house once we put in heat and electricity, and a bunch of farm buildings. And it's been a good spot. Things moved along very quickly. So in the first year and a half, we moved the farm, we had our second child, we realized the farmer's market was taking too much energy, made the decision and started a CSA. So that was a spurt. That was a very busy start to our time there. And now, Steve, I'm going to turn it over, and you can talk about the move and about
Sure.
those early.
You know, we weren't a huge farm at that point, but we were farming about 20 acres, and moving that farm, even though it was only another 30 miles away, was a real challenge. So, we hired equipment movers and loaded things on trailers and got going. But even more important than moving, the physical move was getting the new farm in shape. We had more land there on this new place than we were going to use right away, and it wasn't certifiably organic. And this move happened just about the time the national organic standards were coming into effect. We were still able to sell as transitional organic and have our wholesale customers accept that as a valid designation. So we started farming the best land available in the new place, and so we started cover cropping the rest. We brought in as much compost as we could afford. We started to make an investment into that soil. We needed to turn that pretty good farm into a really good organic farm. And it took a few years. It didn't happen right away. It was really an education. I mean, I knew something about it. I had some ideas of how we were going to go about it, but it was so interesting to see it develop from a mostly okay farm with sandy loam soils, relatively low organic matter because of the nature of the soils, into a productive vegetable farm. It took about 5 to 6 years before we felt like those organic cycles were really working. That's where I really learned a lot, how to take that farm and really make it go. You know, we built infrastructure that on this farm that we couldn't have done on a rented place. We put down concrete, you know, we set up a big greenhouse that was never going to be moved again. You know, that was such a help. We kept growing cover crops and adding organic materials to the farm, and it just continued to improve. You know, there was so much available as we got through these years. More and more help was available from places like Midwest BioAg, and there was so much more information about how to interpret what we saw on the farm and what we were doing. I mean, this conference was an amazing boost consistently, because we'd come here, we'd learn, and we'd take it home, and we'd be able to see improvements on the farm.
So let's talk about where we're at now. We've taken that farm and we have filled it. And there's a satellite shot of the farm. So what does our farm look like now? We've got 45 acres, tillable ground. It's all filled with mixed vegetables. Our farm has grown into a split operation. About half our sales are through a CSA. We pack 500 boxes per week. The other half of our sales are direct sales to natural food stores in Madison and Milwaukee. It took us a while to evolve to that business model, and we initially thought the CSA will just simply replace the Dane County Farmers Market when we left the market, but we found that it was a very good source of stability and interaction with our customers, and that slowly grew, and we looked for this sort of sweet spot, the point where the CSA and the wholesale were in balance. We ship produce about 10 to 11 months per year, a combination of those two different outlets. We have 15 to 20 people working for us per day, and it's a very full-time operation for both. As Carla mentioned, neither of us works off the farm anymore. And we feed a lot of people. We know through the CSA that we're feeding about 2,500 individuals, and then with the wholesale, we can only guess. Now, oh, you take that.
I'll take that. Okay. Go ahead.
The winter storage.
Okay. One of the keys to our development as a successful farm is selling year-round, or as close to year-round as possible. We do about 1/3 of our wholesale sales to those Madison and Milwaukee stores after Thanksgiving. We're still cranking it out right now. There'll be a big delivery tomorrow. And we do that, we just focused on growing roots, cabbage, basically setting up simple storages on the farm and keeping a crew going. There's been a huge benefit to us to be able to keep our best, longest term workers working at part-time through the winter. It really suits them. They don't need to work 5 days a week. They can make enough money. And we can keep people like Simone here in the cabbage cooler, going. Then she looks like she's enjoying herself.
We let her out. Keep her in there.
Yeah, she'll be here tomorrow after, so watch out. And it not only keeps our workers working, our key people, but it keeps our stores selling local and organic food. Those are many tons of cabbage and carrots that do not have to come in from California during the winter. So it's very important. Okay, and we've of course invested in some specialized equipment that works well. This shows a pretty nice carrot harvester we just put into use last year that we brought in from Sweden. European made, secondhand, but in nice shape. So it was a step forward. We're continually making investments into the farm. We want to make it better. Our farm isn't getting any bigger at this point. We made that clear decision that no matter how well we're doing, we're not buying more land. That we're big enough. Okay. But we just want to do it better, and we want to enjoy it more. Here's our winter crew this year. Again, they're the folks doing this. But of course, the real key is that we didn't do this by ourselves. We did it within a bigger community of farmers, support people, even UW, and you're in this room tonight. We're supporting each other. This is the most cooperative group of people that I've ever been around. Farmers who share, farmers who trade information. We've been building a movement. It's moving. It's picking up speed still, and it still has a long way to go. Every time I come to the conference, it's fabulous to see young people here because you're going to carry it on. You're going to take it further. You're going to put your imagination and your energy into it. So doing this together, teaching each other has been an important part of putting this. Here's a field day at Dave Perkins' place. Yeah. That Beth went to, and sharing this information, these field days have been essential. Another example of a group that we were involved with was a cooperative marketing group called Homegrown Wisconsin. We ran it together with about 15 other farms for about 10 years, hiring a manager and selling most of our produce in Chicago. And again, moving that Chicago money into rural Wisconsin and setting up demand and interest for local produce in fancy Chicago restaurants. After 10 years, it wasn't really needed. There was enough momentum going on, and we took it apart, but it was really good for us. Another group another part of our success has been food co-ops. Willie Street Co-op in Madison, essential partner. We grew up together. Yes. We feel just like, BFFs with Willie Street. We would do anything for them, and I think they feel that way about us. They were really good. They actually lent us money when we first started to grow more carrots, to get into wholesale carrots. They said, "We want your carrots. They're really good. We need you to grow more." And they gave us some money for equipment to set things up for storage, and kind of drew us in. And also the Outpost Natural Food Co-ops in Milwaukee. I have a history with them. Started there so long ago, but 20 years ago, when the farm had grown to enough to justify a trip to Milwaukee, we started dealing with them. They now have 4 stores in Milwaukee and the suburbs, and are a major and very important customer. So we're spreading out, we're spreading organics anywhere that we can reach. And we love doing the wholesale business. Another cooperator and an important part of our life is UW. I would say that after a fairly slow start in the field, UW is gaining momentum in organics. They're actually doing research. You have professors, especially somewhat younger professors, who are really involved and truly interested. And this is Erwin Goldman, a horticulture professor and plant breeder, pushing his cedar down the road, doing carrot trials at our farm a couple years ago. We've hosted a lot of trials and some research, on-farm research at our place.
The next aspect of community, this community that we've sort of grown up with and that surrounds us, that we want to talk about, is our CSA and our CSA community. And we feel extremely grounded with our connection with our customers. For us, our CSA members are always the first priority. We've talked about 2 halves of the business, but the CSA always get dib because these are people that we know. And we've reached the point where it's hard to imagine growing food and not being able to envision who's going to eat it. And so we know that our produce goes out to the wholesale customers. We're glad. We hope they enjoy it. But for us, it's really important to know the folks who are eating our food and appreciating it, And we really feel that this is, part of the business that keeps us very grounded. We love having the kids out for field days. And then I think, honestly, for me, the most essential part of our community is the people who work for us. We've mentioned a couple times aspects of sort of growing up together, and we feel like our farm has grown up in cooperation with the employees who work for us. Many of them have been with us for many years. We've got a couple folks who will be here tomorrow, 10 years, 15, and 20 years. And the long-term crew and their commitment to the farm is really part of why we've been able to grow to the level we have. Having people who take responsibility gives us sort of the mental space to take on a larger operation. As we were getting ready for this talk, we were sort of brainstorming about, well, why are we in business and why were we able to get to this point? And we feel like the crew, that long-term crew, is really an essential part of it. And we were brainstorming about, well, why are we able to get people to keep coming back to work for us? I thought it'd be worth identifying what we think are the factors. And we have some employees and former employees out in the audience, so if they disagree, they can share that later. But we've tried to be deliberate in making working for us sort of a manageable thing. So for example, our work schedule is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30. This is banker's hours. But we recognize that by keeping a modest schedule for this kind of hard work, that people can have a life outside of work. We have tried to pay fair wages above maybe what is available in other farms. We just feel it's important to pay well. We know it doesn't hurt that we're close to Madison, Wisconsin. That keeps young people nearby. We think the biggest reason that people come back to our farm year after year is because we have shared responsibility. It is not always easy to do this, but we recognize that when we share responsibility with our employees and give them real work of their own, that's a big reason why they come back. And I just want to acknowledge these three women up here from left. It's Simone O'Donoghue, Maggie Schley, Carrie Devlin. They're all going to be here tomorrow. And these are the folks who've been with us between 10 and 20 years and have grown into management on our farm. And the other folks who worked for us a long time are really key for why we're still doing this. Good. Yeah. Let's go into the past a little bit. So we were also brainstorming about, well, what will our legacy be? And no matter what happens to us and our little farm, we think our legacy is going to be all the people who have worked for us and then have gone on to do other interesting things in agriculture. And this slide is perfect because when you look up there, there are 4 people who started farms. Yeah. Should we say them? Yep. So we've got Scott and Chuck and Kate and Dan went to the Carolinas, and Simone's still working for us. And people have done other things. So Mark Geislinger is active in organic certification. We've had people leave us and go do research in organic ag. They've gone on to work on other farms with increased responsibility, advocacy work. Some of our former employees are produce buyers at this point.
Yeah, it's been great working with all these people and seeing them develop. Even one good year on the farm can really affect a young person in a very, very positive way. Let's look at that next one. Yeah, we've had a lot of good times over the years. I'd like to. I like the smiles, when we're harvesting a good crop under a beautiful sky and everything is just perfect. We have those days and a lot of them, and still many more to come, I hope. One more. Okay, a couple more. All right, yeah, here's a lunch photo. We sit down every day and have lunch together. We just make sure the whole crew's there. And this was taken fairly recently. A bunch of hard-working and hard-living folks who really want to do the right thing for the world and all of us. The great people to work with. And then, okay, well, why has this worked out for us? I think we've touched on some of the high points. We've been fortunate to have the right people on the farm, the right customers. In some ways, we were here at the right time. We I was able to put my energy into helping get things started here with organics. We were in the right area. Being around Madison really helps. And it has come together well. We've committed ourselves. We made a commitment a long time ago. We're going to make this work no matter what happens. And that's the sort of attitude that really makes anything work. You've got to go all in. You've got to just put yourself on the line and give it whatever it takes. So we like to have fun. Here's a photo taken at the end of a wild parade through the Willie Street neighborhood in Madison. It's getting to be a yearly habit for us to go there and just enjoy our urban community. So you are our community. We're glad to be a part of what you're all doing, and I hope we'll be around here for many more years. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, do it. All right, everyone, just a couple quick notes. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Just wanted to remind you that there are refreshments in the North Hall Lounge. Don't get lost out there. You're going to want to come back in again. We'll have the yellow-bellied sapsuckers performing here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming and joining us to celebrate the 27th Annual Moses Organic Farming Conference. So glad you're all here. Thank you.